Everyone noticed him sitting alone, except her. But when their eyes met, something shifted. What happened next would change both their lives forever. The wedding was beautiful. The kind of affair that Pinterest dreams were made of. Twinkling lights hung from the trees like fireflies caught in an enchanted spell. Laughter echoed across the vineyard, and soft jazz played in the background as servers in white gloves passed around champagne. Everyone had someone. Couples swayed together, old friends reunited, and family members gathered for photographs. But in the very last row, at a table no one seemed to notice, sat a man in a navy blue suit, straight-backed, hands folded, quiet. His eyes scanned the joyful crowd, masking the ache that settled into his bones. His name was Ethan, a 38-year-old single father who hadn't meant to come. He'd RSVP'd no, but his daughter Grace had begged him to attend. "You need to get out, Dad," she'd said. "Go live a little." So he came, only to feel more alone than he ever had. Ethan wasn't bitter. Life had simply taken unexpected turns. His wife, Emma, had passed away 6 years earlier in a car accident, and since then he had worn grief like a second skin. He hadn't dated. He hadn't tried. Everything he had was poured into raising Grace, who was now 13 and already wiser than most adults he knew. Tonight, she was staying with her grandmother, giving him the rare freedom to attend his cousin's wedding alone, but also leaving him vulnerable to emotions he thought he'd buried. He watched the bride and groom share their first dance, his heart heavy with both joy for them and sorrow for himself. Couples laughed around him. No one approached his table, not out of rudeness, just unawareness. He was invisible, or so he thought. Across the dance floor, at a table of bridesmaids, sat a woman in a pale green dress. Her name was Ava. She had soft curls pinned behind one ear, a kind face, and a spark in her eye that hinted at mischief. She wasn't the type to stay silent when something, or someone stood out. She noticed Ethan, not because he looked lost, but because he looked anchored, grounded in a world that seemed to float by. His posture, his stillness, the way he looked at the newlyweds like he understood love's weight. It intrigued her. When the DJ invited guests to join the next slow dance, couples eagerly took to the floor. Ava remained seated until something nudged her, something like intuition or maybe fate. Without overthinking it, she stood, walked across the crowd, heels clicking against stone, and stopped right in front of Ethan. "Would you like to dance?" she asked. Offering her hand, he blinked, startled. "Me? Yes, you." She smiled gently. "You look like you could use a little music in your life." He hesitated. "I'm not much of a dancer." "Good," she replied. "Neither am I." He laughed softly. The first real laugh in a long time. He took her hand. On the dance floor, they moved slowly, awkward at first, then gradually settling into an unexpected rhythm. No small talk, no forced smiles, just two people, strangers moments ago, now floating together in the middle of a fairy-lit evening. The world faded around them. The noise dulled. And in that moment, Ethan felt something he hadn't in years: presence. Not haunted by the past, not anxious about the future. Just here. "Your daughter?" Ava asked gently, noticing the silver locket around his neck that had a tiny picture inside. "Yes," he said. "She's my world. She's lucky to have you." He looked into her eyes. "It's usually the other way around." After the song ended, they didn't part. They sat together, shared stories, laughed about childhood mischief and wedding disasters. She told him she worked in publishing, that she'd just moved back to the area after years away. He told her about Grace, his late wife, his love for old records, and the way he made pancakes shaped like hearts every Sunday. Hours passed like minutes. When the wedding ended, they were the last two standing under the fairy lights. He walked her to her car, not wanting the night to end. "Thank you," he said quietly. "For what?" "For seeing me," though she looked at him softly. Some people are hard to miss. They exchanged numbers, and for the first time in years, Ethan drove home with music playing. Not sad, not nostalgic, but hopeful. Grace met him at the door in pajamas, brushing her teeth. "Well," she asked with a grin. He smiled. "I danced." Grace froze, eyes wide. "You danced? With someone?" She screamed like any teenage daughter would. "Oh my God." "Dad," he chuckled and kissed her forehead. "Don't get too excited. It was just one night." But Ava wasn't just one night. She became the morning text that made him smile, the voice on the phone that steadied him after long days, the reason Grace began setting an extra plate at dinner, just in case. Over months, she became family. Not a replacement for what was lost, but proof that healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means letting love in, even when you're afraid. And it all started because one woman, at one wedding, chose to pick the quiet man in the corner, without knowing the storm he'd weathered, or the home he'd built out of heartache. Sometimes, all it takes is one kind gesture to change a life. She didn't just invite him to dance. She invited him to feel again. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Your support helps us bring more stories like this to life. And who knows, maybe your story is next.